Hey y'all, welcome to the Feeling Station, y'all. I'm super excited. So in today's video, we're looking at support and resistance and how it's really important to remember the places that, that the price where price action or buyers and sellers were, because there's a strong possibility that we're going to come back to that, what I like to say, the gathering spot. But y'all, first, let me go ahead and give my disclaimer. I am not a financial advisor. I just enjoy teaching people how to build generational wealth. And yes, the stock market, it's just one of those avenues. So this video is for educational purposes only. With that being said, let's get started. So we are looking at the SPY, and I normally like to look at the SPY on the 30-minute chart. That's where I normally start to do all of my, analysis, breakdown type stuff. And one of the things I wanted to point out is this is the 1 hour chart. We can see it a little bit clearer on the 1 hour chart, right? So if you're looking at this chart, you can see that price is pretty much gathered in this area here. The date of this was 12/6. So on 12/6, the SPY traded basically in this range, right? So this is 12/9. Price came down only to create another little zone here. A little gathering spot is what I like to see, right? You see prices just gathered, candles are gathered together here. We came down again only to create another gathering spot. You see prices just gathered in this area. Most would call it consolidation. That is probably the technical name, right? I like to say the gathering spot. Why? Because that's where prices, the candles, buyers and sellers are just gathered in this area and trying to make a decision on who's going to win, the up or the down, right? Basically. So once we gathered here, it looks as if we end up going back up. But if you look, we stopped out right at the body of these candles here. And I'm going to see if I can make this a little bit bigger because I want to point something out here. So as you can see, when we broke out of this area only to come down, right? And we went back to the upside. However, look where price came back to this area where the body of this candle is. So I had already marked this zone, the top of these candles here, the bottom of these candles here, and I knew that price had been trading in this area. So if I was to make this line, let's say a little bit darker so that we can understand it. Let's make it a little bit thick. Well, yeah. Try to make it a little bit thicker. We're having some technical difficulties, but we'll work that out, right? So we made that a little bit thicker for a reason, and I'm going to do this top line the exact same way because I want to make a point that price is probably going to come back to that area. That's going to be our resistance or support area, right? So again, I'm going to go back. We started in this area, broke out of this, came down, created another gathering spot, as I like to say, and then we went back to the upside. But look where we had trouble at, right where the body of these candles are here. So that's why it's so important to know where your gathering spots are, or your consolidation areas, or basically your support and your resistance, right? And so many people get caught up on the wicks and not to use the wicks and when to, in my opinion, it's whatever works best for you. Because listen, right here, the body of the candles, yes, it did sell off here, found support on this line only to go back up, but look where the body of the candles are. So that's why I use the body of the candles, and sometimes I'll look at the wick just to get an idea, right? But at the end of the day, this is what really matters, in my opinion. Especially when I'm in the trade, right? Or I'm looking to get in the trade, or places that I need to pay very close attention to. Let me go ahead and use that as a disclaimer. So back to, we broke out of this gathering spot only to come here to create another gathering spot. We went back to the upside only to get, we got rejected in this area. Well, guess what? This candle took us back to the gathering spot. Remember, we're coming out of this one. This candle took us back to the gathering spot, but look how price came back down under this level here. So we're having trouble here. That's what this candle is telling us, that we're having trouble. And normally, we didn't break through this or continue to the higher or making higher highs or any of that. We had trouble in this area. So when we came back down, look where price came back to. back to the gathering spot. So we broke out of the gathering spot again, only to come back down here and create another gathering spot, right? So, and this was, let's see, on 1210, we created another gathering spot here. Well, what was interesting is, I'm going to go back and zoom out for a minute and then I'll zoom back in. This is our 1210 gathering spot that's being created here. The very next, let's say 1211, the price broke out of a gathering spot here, moved up. Look where we ended up, back in a gathering spot. That was from, let's see, 12.5, 12.6, 12.9, and 12.11. We came back to a gathering spot or a consolidation area or a supply area, whatever you want to call it. I really don't get caught up in the name. I'm a visual learner. As I've said before, I visually know that I need to pay attention to these highs. I need to pay attention to what's going on in this area because it's a strong possibility that we're going to come back and retest those places again. That's why it's important to mark your resistance area, which is at the top, your support area, which is at the bottom. This area here is going to be a resistance area for us, and we know that there's one here, there's some here, there's some here, there's some here. So now if I was to go and draw a line, let's see, a line, and I have to make it a different color because the SPY is something that I normally yes. So I'm going to make this a different color only because I need to be mindful of that. Let's make it a lime green color because I know I probably will use that one. So let's make it this light green color for right now. And I'm going to make it a little bit thicker because I want to point something out, okay? So this line here, as you can see, price is here. Price broke through, came down. Price is here. And it's here again, right? So we have an issue with this area here of 608.45. That 608.45, we've had some trouble in that area several days, right? One, at least 3 days. That one right there is a possibility, right? We broke through it only to come back down. So what's important is that we know that we're going to have trouble. We have had trouble before in this area. We need to remember this as a resistance area because we know that we've had trouble there before. It's a strong possibility that we're going to have trouble there again. So normally when I have areas like that, I will mark them with the gray shaded area. If that's too much for you, you do key levels, areas that you can remember or you need to remember. And this can work in any chart, any time frame, however you choose, however you choose. It's your charting technique and it's what works best for you. I need to say that, right? So back to the SPY and how this area is an area that we've tested several times before. So we need to remember that as a resistance area. 608.45 is an area that I would definitely need to pay attention to. So as of now, what I wanted to point out was once we came off of this area here, it was interesting to see the SPY, this candle here. I think when I did my pre-market video, I said we cannot move the market like this, but it was interesting to see the SPY, this long candle here, based off of this 608 coming off of that. So I said there's going to be an issue. It wouldn't surprise me to see us back, and I'm going to zoom out just so that I can show you to the back. It wouldn't surprise me to see us back in this area here based on this candle here. Because I saw this, it's like, okay, we are very well. And if you look very closely, look where this long candle here, the high of this candle is so interesting, 607.53. The low of this candle is 602.80. So this candle here brought it back, and it's after hours, y'all. So there's not something that definitely was computer generated, in my opinion. Let me say that. So look where price came back to. It still brought us back to a gathering spot, basically. So that's why it's so important to remember those places, because price is it's probably going to come back to that area. So what was interesting about the SPY today, and the day of recording is to December 12th, let's say that, is because when SPY traded in this area here, and when I noticed that I had already had this 60601 area marked, we marked that we knew that we were having trouble on this day here at that 60601. So when we came down and we traded in this zone here, I knew that, I'm going to see, yes, I knew that we were in this zone from 60601 down to the 60533. Well, guess what? Coming down to this area was interesting. It was strong. That 60101 was very strong support for the SPY. And when we broke that level, I knew that we were going to have trouble, especially when we broke the 60533, because that was a previous gathering spot for us. That 60601, which is high where the bodies are here, and the low of 60533. I knew that if we broke this level here to the SPY, we could very well continue to the downside, and that's exactly what we did today. I'm going to go back out and fix that. That's exactly what we did today. We broke out of this gathering spot here only to come down. We found support here. The low of this candle is 603.91, only to come back to the upside. So the interesting thing is us breaking this 605.33, which was an area that we had marked as a gathering spot and strong support and resistance, right? So I'm going to go to the 30-minute chart really quick, and I hope that I'm not going too fast or confusing anyone. So if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask, right? So looking at this 30-minute chart, this thick line here, 601.01, you can see price is here. We came through, bounced, went back. Here, came through, went back. Here, here. So this area here is definitely an area I need to pay very close attention to. So that 60601, I literally had to watch that level a majority of the day, because I said if we break that, I know we're going to have some issues to the downside. Well, we broke that only to come, back to another area, 605.33. This is the 30-minute chart. Well, we broke through that again. So if I go to the 5-minute chart, let's see what it's looking like on the 5-minute chart. And I do know that, sometimes my charts are a little bit congested, y'all, and that's how I chart the SPY a lot. Let me say that. I trade the SPY a lot, let's say that, but I enjoy trading. So, okay, so this is the 5-minute chart, and we're looking at the SPY. Remember that 606.01 is this thick line here. That's the line that we just made a little bit thicker so that we can see it. And then this 605.33. If you can look at it on this 5-minute chart, we see that SPY is trading in a very tight zone. Well, soon as, let's see, so we traded in this area for a while. You see candles are in this area. I'm going to see if I can make it a little bit bigger so that we can see it without actually, let's see if I can get it right. Okay, so it looks as if the SPY traded, body of the candles are here on this line or in this area, in this zone, this 60601. Yes, we did break through, but if we traded in this area right here at this 60601 area, the body of the candles are here. Yes, we broke through it here only to come back. Y'all, I do that so often, right? We broke through this level only to come back to the upside. Here made that high of 60716, right? And then we came off of that back to this 60601. Yes, we did break through this level here. Let's say the low of this area is around the 60520. Okay, so we broke that only to come back up again, to come back to this 6. Look where the body of the candles are. It's really close to this 60601. So for some reason, I need to remember this 60601. Keep in mind that was an area that we were just in back not long ago. I'm going to zoom back that is a 30 minute. I'm going to go to the 1 hour. We can see it there, right? So this was an area that we were in on 12/9. So now we're back in this area from 12/9. That's why, y'all, it is so important that we mark the gathering spot or know where your trouble places are, as I like to say, or basically, ultimately, let's say that your support and your resistance. And where am I going to have trouble? And we identify that by going to the highs and the lows. We know that this 608.45 is going to be a resistance area for us. We knew that the support area, which was holding this area up here, was around the 605.33, and at the time the resistance was 606.01. So this will be a good time to bring up. Sometimes support becomes resistance and resistance becomes support, because this area 606.01, I'm going to go to the 30-minute chart really quick. This area 606.01 was a strong area of support for us. Strong area of support, because it seems like we held up down. I'm going to go down one to the 5-minute, and it, because we held up so well on this 606.01 area, so that when we broke out of that, which was around here, we start breaking down under that, and look what happened. Price just continued declining because we broke through a strong level of support. In my opinion, that 606.01 was a very strong level of support, because we were there before the previous day. It held us up. We were there again at this time here, and it seemed like every time price came and broke through, we end up back in the same area, which here, prime example, we end up back in the same area, back in the same area, back in the same area, only to break through this time. So when we break through that this time, guess what? We have another area of support down here. So this will be our support, and that strong line here is now our resistance. And just as it was strong support, it is now a very strong area of resistance. So I needed to remember that 606.01 area as a level of, now it's my resistance instead of being my support. That's something to always be mindful of. That is an example of when support becomes resistance and resistance becomes your support. So we have broken through this level here, broke through another level, that zone that we were trading in, 605.33. We've broken through that, only to come here and create a gathering spot. But y'all see it's on that gray shaded line. That's a previous support or a previous resistance area that's on my chart that I immediately automatically, I've charted this a while back, so I did not take it off of my charts, because I knew that the SPY was going to come back to this area, and I need to know where my trouble places are. So when we came back to this area, 604.94 was an area of support. And as you can see, price kept coming back to this area, and it stayed in this area for a while. And eventually we sold out of that area, only to come back to this area. 604.20 was another area of support for the SPY. So basically, y'all, trading is about support and resistance, identifying your trouble places and knowing you could possibly have trouble in this area. And, sometimes it changes, right? You kind of got to get in the area, get in the zone. It may not be the exact time or the exact number each time, but just like this 604.94, it has tested this area, or tested this area 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's 1, 7. 7 times it went up here, but look, it came back to this area. So we knew that this 604.94 is also a very strong area of support for the SPY. So we've got to be careful when we're trading to always know, where the gathering spot is, or where the support area is, or where the resistance area is. And I normally start with, identifying my gathering spot. Where did price gather together? What made them stay in this area right here? Because if that's the case, why didn't it just continue going down? Why didn't it continue going up? what made it stop and stay in this area? And once we identify that, we need to mark it with something. Some people use lines, different color lines, and knowing what those lines means is whatever works best for you. But you've got to come up with your strategy as to, what works best for you, and learn that and practice that, and let it become routine for you. Because once you're seeing the same thing over and over, it's like immediately my eye goes to the gathering spot. Like I knew pre-market that this area here was a gathering spot for us. Immediately my eye went to this area as price stayed in this area, or in this zone here, saying that price stayed in this zone here, in this area here. So that's why it's so important that we mark those places and identify those places. So y'all, I hope these videos are very, very helpful. One of the things that I noticed today, that the SPY was a very strong area of support at that 606.01. We broke out of that, broke through it was our support. It then became our resistance, because the 605.33 became our support. As soon as we broke through this level, this became our support here. Well, we broke through that level only to come back to this 604.32, which was the support level at the time, which would have made the 605.33 a resistance area. Another example of when the support becomes resistance becomes support. So we broke out of this area, out of our support, we broke our support, only to come down and find support at another level. It's just like walking downstairs, right? You come down, you find support on the next step. Well, you still have some resistance overhead, right? So that level that was once holding us up as support is now our resistance. So we broke through this level of 606.01 only to come down a step to the 605.33. Well, we broke through the 605.33 only to find another level. Well, we found a level here at 604.94. We broke that. 604.65. We came prices there. We came back to 604.32. Those are levels of support. We're just walking down the stairs, basically. Now back to the upside. We bounced from this level of support. We're going to go back to this 604.65. We're going to go back to the 604.94. We're going to go back to the 605.33. We're going to break through those eventually and go back to that 606.01. Y'all, I've said that number so many times today. 606.01 is going to be a resistance area for us. So I know tomorrow, if the SPY break, or when I'm looking at the charts again, if the SPY should break above that 606.01, it was very strong support for us. It is now very strong resistance. So if it breaks through that level, then we have broken through a very key level of support and resistance. In my opinion, we could very well keep moving to the upside. So again, y'all, I hope these videos are very, very helpful. This is what I see when I look at the market. I try my absolute best to make it as easy as possible. Again, I am a visual learner. I try not to focus so much on a technical name for it, because as long as I know what it means when I see it, I get it, right? So, and not saying not to learn the technical names for it. If you learn that way, again, one of the things about trading, y'all, you have to understand what type of learner you are. Again, I say often that I am a visual learner. Visually, I have to see it. We can talk about it, but I really need to see it. So when I see that candle, I know what it means. Or when I see the gathering spot, I know what it means. Or when I see, the bear flag, the bull flag, those type things, I know what it means, right? So that's why we have to know what it means instead of really focusing, in my opinion, I don't try to focus so much on the name of it to where I miss the meaning. Let me say that, because sometimes we can get so caught up in the name to where we really miss the meaning of that. So yeah, again, y'all, I hope these videos are very, very helpful. I hope that everyone have a very profitable and a very, very productive day. I always say we learn and grow together, y'all. So if you could, please like, share, comment, subscribe, all of that good stuff. Because of that, we're learning and we're growing together. So until next time, y'all, be blessed as well as a blessing unto others.